Shoaib Bashir and how he's bowled across the series. Seemed like you sort of particularly celebrated a couple of his wickets in the second innings. Do you feel like he's sort of grown in confidence as this test has worn on?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, I think the way that him and Leachy operated together complemented each other very well. It's always nice as a captain when you've got the option of the ball consistently spinning away from a left hand and right hand. I chopped and changed depending on who was on strike because I felt the Pakistan batters seemed a little bit more vulnerable whenever the spin was away from them. But yeah, I think the way that Bash bowled, yesterday, really brought that game back towards us and put lots of pressure on Pakistan. He's obviously in so much to work with. Got 4 wickets left-handers, so he's got an incredible amount of skill at bowling at the lefties. And I think to the right-handers, he's just going to get better and better. He's got a incredible desire to constantly get better. He works so hard with Jeets to get better and better. And he's very, very early on at the start of his international career as an off-spin bowler. So much to work with, and when you've got someone like that who's desperate to keep on improving, you're onto a winner.
With the slightly unusual circumstances of the pitch and everything, are you tempted to sort of take this result on the chin a bit, or are there any aspects of the game you wish you'd done better?
Yeah, look, it was always going to be an interesting test match, I think, knowing when we were going to be using a used pitch, because obviously day 1 was effectively day 6. But yeah, look, I think on day 1 it actually played all right, and it wasn't until the end of day 2 where I think the spin and the sort of the dryness and the usage of the pitch really started to show. I think if you look back on this test match in particular, and look, the guys who had success with the bat were the ones who looked to put a lot of pressure on the spinners, both from our batting lineup and Pakistan's batting lineup. It was one of those where you had to try and find a way to negate the spin. I felt standing at slip when our spinners are bowling, as soon as anyone looked to play trust their defence too much, is when you massively felt in the game. Like the 200s in the game from Ben Duckett and the Pakistan guy on debut, they really put the pressure on the spinners by just negating any spin, because that was obviously the big threat. But yeah, it was an interesting test match to watch. There was a lot happening, a lot going on, and one that I'm pretty sure was good viewing for everyone who turned up to watch, not only here but on the TV as well.
The chase this morning, you guys always would back yourselves and never give in. What were your thoughts when you sort of said your bat disappearing off the square leg and stumped?
Yeah, I should try and remember to keep hold of my bat next time. It's the second time I think I've done that. But yeah, look, it was always going to be a very, very tough ask, but we obviously backed ourselves to chase that down, and I think it was pretty evident of the way that we had to go out there and play. It was a case of chasing the runs down as opposed to looking at how much time we had left in the game. We built some really good partnerships when we started to put the pressure back onto Pakistan. But obviously, it's always going to be in the bowler's favour when there is so much going on. But I think the way in which we approached this run chase was exactly how what was the right way to do it. You couldn't just look to sit in there and bat time, because there was always going to be one with your name on it. So we had to find a way to score runs, which we managed to do, just obviously for not long enough. Because if we did, then we would have got over the line.
And obviously, going to Rawalpindi for a decider now, a big match. Unlikely that conditions like this can be generated again over a couple of days in Rawalpindi. Do you think what your team has showed over a couple of days, it leaves you fairly well placed for a decider?
Yeah, I think it sets the series up brilliantly. That's why I think should always be an odd number of games in a series. Because you obviously want, if there's going to be results in every game, you want there to be a winner. But yeah, obviously we've got no idea what type of conditions we're going to be faced with for the last Test match, and we'll just have to wait and see what we get produced with and what we think is best to give us the best chance of winning that Test match.
Hi Ben. It was pretty extreme conditions when you guys were batting your second innings. I'm just wondering, in terms of difficulty level, have you had many harder to bat on than that?
Being very honest, it's actually a lot easier when you know what you got to go out there and do. Um, Defending the ball was probably the hardest thing to do on that wicket. Um, Everyone was sort of treating a sweep shot like a defence, but it was a scoring option. When you're on those type of wickets, when you're looking in there to defend, you sort of only got one thing in your mind, which is I can't score. There's eventually going to be one with my name on it. So yeah, obviously when you're looking to play the cross-batted shots with the sweeps and stuff like that, you've obviously got a chance of dismissal, but at least you're giving yourself a chance of scoring runs. And obviously when you're chasing down a total, that's what you need to look at, and you need to find a way to give yourself the best chance of scoring those runs, whilst also putting pressure back onto them. If you're just sitting there on that wicket, I think it was pretty evident that we would have got nowhere near to that total that we would have done if we didn't go out there with that intent to really put the pressure on with our sweep shots. Well, I think they just used the home conditions in their favour. Again, you could look back, and if we had won the toss, it could have been completely different, and then it would have been a silly decision. But the toss was always going to be massive on this. I think me and Shan both knew that walking out there at 9:30 on whatever day it was. I always call tails, and I won't be changing it next week either. Yeah, obviously 211 for 2 was a very commanding position for us to be in. But as I said earlier, when we lost those 3 or 4 quick wickets, that's when it really started to happen for the spinners. It was spinning out the foothole, spinning out the cracks as well. So when it happens as quickly as that, could we have been quicker at counteracting that? But I think it's very easy to say that's where we lost the game. But when a pitch does do that out of pretty much nowhere, I thought on day 2, it's very tough to change a game plan that you already have gone out there, considering you've watched a day and a half of batters score run playing in a particular way. But Ben Duckett's first innings 100 was just remarkable. He really showed our batting group how to go about scoring runs, and I think we obviously tried to implement that today and yesterday. But yeah, we just couldn't quite build those partnerships for long enough, and yeah, happy with the approach that we took. Hopefully next time we can get over the line if we're faced with similar stuff.
Commiserations on the loss, but of course this is a team in transition. Jamie Smith debuted in the English summer and he's been phenomenal, even though he had a tough test match behind the stumps. Then Gus Atkinson has been really, really good for England as well. And in this series, we've seen Bryden Cars pick up 9 wickets at 24 on these sort of tracks, and he can whack a long ball as well. So how do you see your progress as a unit, especially building up to that Ashes in Australia?
Yeah, I think a lot's going to be said about spin from this week, but our 2 seamers in particular, Matthew Potts and Bryden Cars, I thought were just as impressive. Obviously, nowhere near as many favourable conditions for fast bowlers this week, but the way that those 2 in particular just kept running in spell after spell, ball after ball, showed a lot about their character and how much it obviously means to play for England. It's incredibly hot, but they didn't shy away from anything that I asked them to do. That shows a lot about their attitude, a lot about what we try to do in terms of, as individuals, we give everything to our team members, and they certainly showed that. But great signs for us going forward. I think Bryden Castle has shown why we see him as such a huge asset for us, not only in the Test team, but also in the white ball team going forward for England.